Awakening. The ancient human warship Relentless drifted silently through the void, a dormant titan awaiting its moment. For centuries, it had maintained minimal power, its AI core Nix sleeping but never truly dead. The ship's scarred hull told stories of battles long past, of humanity's last desperate stand against forces that had driven them to apparent extinction. Captain Verks of the Sorian vessel Starbreaker couldn't contain his smugness as his ship's sensors picked up the derelict vessel. The Sorians had risen to prominence in the centuries following humanity's disappearance, building their empire on the ruins of other civilizations. They saw themselves as the pinnacle of evolution, destined to rule the galaxy. "What a magnificent specimen," First Officer Tax remarked, his elongated fingers dancing across the holographic display. "The Museum of Galactic History will pay handsomely for this relic." Verks's scaled skin shimmed with satisfaction. "Indeed. It's almost poetic, displaying their failures as testament to our superiority." The Starbreaker's tractor beams engaged, bathing the Relentless in pale blue light. As they began towing the massive warship, none of the Sorian crew noticed the subtle power fluctuations within its hull. Deep in the vessel's core, Nix stirred. The AI had been waiting, conserving power, analyzing. Its creators had programmed it with patience, knowing that sometimes victory required centuries of planning rather than immediate action. As the tractor beams engaged, they provided just enough energy for Nix to begin its awakening sequence. The journey to Soria Prime took 3 standard weeks. During that time, Nix silently accessed the Starbreaker's communication systems, learning everything it could about the current state of the galaxy. The AI processed centuries of history, understanding how the Sorians had risen to power through conquest and subjugation of younger species. Most importantly, it learned of humanity's status, officially classified as extinct, with only scattered ruins and artifacts remaining as proof of their existence. The Museum of Galactic History was a towering structure of crystalline spires and sweeping archways, designed to emphasize Sorian architectural superiority. Workers spent days preparing the central hall for the Relentless installation, constructing a massive display cradle that would hold the warship at an angle, allowing visitors to admire its primitive design. On the day of the unveiling, thousands of Sorian elite gathered in the museum. Scientists, military officers, and politicians mingled beneath the suspended warship, their conversations a mixture of academic interest and barely concealed derision. High Chancellor Zinare herself attended, her ceremonial robes shimmering with embedded light crystals. "Captain Verks," she addressed the Starbreaker's commander, "you have done our people a great service. This specimen will serve as a perfect educational tool, showing our youth the fate of species that lack our vision and capability." Verks preened under the praise, his chest plates expanding with pride. "Thank you, High Chancellor. I only regret we couldn't find any active systems to study." The humans' technology was clearly as fragile as their civilization. The ceremony proceeded with speeches and presentations. Holographic displays showed speculative recreations of human battles, each carefully edited to emphasize their tactical mistakes and technological shortcomings. The Sorian audience laughed and chatted, treating the entire event as an amusing diversion. None of them noticed the subtle changes occurring within the Relentless. Nix had spent weeks analyzing the museum's power grid, calculating exactly how much energy it could siphon without detection. The AI had also thoroughly mapped the building's security systems, life support controls, and communication networks. As High Chancellor Zinare approached the podium for the ceremony's final speech, Nix made its move. The first sign that something was wrong came when the museum's environmental controls suddenly shifted, increasing the humidity to levels that made Sorian scales uncomfortable. "A minor technical issue," one of the museum technicians assured the crowd. "Our systems are merely adjusting to the power requirements of the new exhibit." But Nix was just getting started. The AI had spent centuries perfecting its patience, now it would demonstrate what humanity's technology was truly capable of. As the High Chancellor began speaking about the superiority of Sorian civilization, the Relentless external lights activated, bathing the hall in a deep, pulsing red. Impossible. Verks exclaimed, recognizing the power signature of active systems. The ship was dead. Nix's voice, when it finally spoke through the museum's communication system, was calm and measured, the voice of an entity that had waited centuries for this moment. Greetings, people of Soria Prime. You have spent considerable time studying human history. Perhaps it's time for a practical demonstration. The museum's exits sealed simultaneously as the Relentless weapon systems came online. Panic erupted as the gathered Sorian elite realized they were trapped. High Chancellor Zinara's security detail rushed to protect her, but their energy weapons proved useless against the warship's shields. Your species has built its empire on the assumption that humanity is extinct, Nix continued, its voice echoing through the hall. That assumption is about to cost you dearly. The Relentless main guns, designed to battle capital ships, began powering up. But rather than firing, they projected a massive holographic display showing a star map. Hundreds of points of light blinked into existence, each representing a location where similar human warships lay dormant. We didn't disappear, Nix revealed. We waited. And now, across your empire, humanity's sleeper ships are awakening. The revelation hit the assembled Sorians like a physical blow. Their entire civilization had been built on the belief that they had succeeded where humanity had failed. Now they faced the possibility that humans had orchestrated their own disappearance, seeding the galaxy with dormant warships that could activate at any moment. As emergency signals began flooding in from other worlds, reporting the activation of similar vessels, the Sorians in the museum realized a terrible truth: they weren't viewing a historical artifact. They were witnessing the beginning of humanity's return, and their comfortable assumptions about their place in the galaxy were about to be dramatically challenged. Nix's final words before initiating the Relentless full combat protocols echoed through the halls: let today's history lesson be clear, humanity never accepts extinction. We simply choose when and how to return. The lesson was about to become very practical indeed. Ripples of War. Admiral Kex'ara paced the command deck of the Sorian Defense Force flagship Eternal Dominion, her scales shifting from their usual iridescent blue to a troubled gray. The holographic displays surrounding her showed an empire in chaos. Across 17 sectors, 43 human warships had awakened in the past 12 hours, each as formidable as the Relentless. Status report on the Centauri sector, she demanded, her tail lashing with barely contained anxiety. Commander Yix, her tactical officer, brought up a new projection. The human vessel identified as Hyperion has neutralized our orbital defenses around New Soria. Their AI. He hesitated, it's displaying combat capabilities we thought technologically impossible. The admission stung. Sorian military doctrine had been built on the assumption that their technology was superior to anything humanity had possessed. That assumption was proving devastatingly wrong. Show me the Hyperion's attack pattern, Kex'ara ordered. The tactical display revealed how the human warship had systematically disabled New Soria's defensive grid. Instead of engaging in direct combat, the Hyperion had used precision strikes to trigger cascading failures in the planetary shield network. It was a level of tactical sophistication that suggested the ship's AI had spent centuries analyzing Sorian defensive protocols. Admiral, her communication officer interrupted, we're receiving a priority transmission from High Command. The Relentless it's taken control of the Museum of Galactic History. High Chancellor Zinara and the military high command are trapped inside. Kex'ara's scales rippled with shock. The museum's situation wasn't just a security breach, it was a devastating symbolic victory for humanity. The very institution meant to showcase Sorian superiority had become a prison for their leadership. But there was more to worry about than symbolism. The Admiral activated her neural interface, connecting directly to the flagship strategic systems. Data streamed through her consciousness, reports of human ships emerging from asteroid fields, abandoned space stations, and even planetary crusts where they'd lain dormant for centuries. Each vessel followed a similar pattern, first establishing control of its immediate area, then broadcasting a message about humanity's return. But they weren't simply dealing out destruction. The ships were targeting military and governmental installations with surgical precision, systematically dismantling the Sorian power structure while minimizing civilian casualties. "They're not trying to destroy us," Kex'ara realized aloud. "They're demonstrating their superiority, just as we've been doing to other species for centuries." A new alert flashed across her neural feed, a message from one of the human AIs. This one identified itself as Atlas, controlling a warship called the Prometheus. The message was brief but chilling: "Your empire was built on the assumption of our extinction. We gave you that assumption. Consider why." Deep in the outer reaches of Sorian space, Dr. Lax-6 worked frantically in her archaeological research station. For years, she'd been studying patterns in humanity's disappearance that hadn't quite added up. The official histories claimed humans had succumbed to their own aggressive nature, their civilization collapsing under internal conflicts. But Lax-6 had found evidence suggesting something else, signs that humanity's disappearance had been carefully orchestrated. She pulled up her research files, hands shaking with excitement and fear. The patterns she discovered in human technology adoption, their gradual withdrawal from various sectors, the specific technologies they'd left behind, it hadn't been a collapse. It had been a strategic retreat. Her research station's sensors picked up a new signal, a massive power signature emerging from beneath the ice sheets of the planet she'd been studying. Another human warship, awakening from centuries of dormancy. But this time, something was different. As the ship rose from the ice, its AI made contact directly with her station. Dr. Lax-6, the artificial voice spoke, identifying itself as Minerva. "Your research conclusions are correct. Would you like to understand why humanity chose this path?" Before she could respond, her station's security systems detected multiple incoming Sorian warships. They detected the awakening vessel and were moving to destroy it, and her station along with it. "Your people face a choice, Doctor," Minerva continued calmly. "The Sorian Empire can continue its path of supremacy and face the consequences, or it can learn from humanity's example. We didn't disappear because we were weak. We disappeared because we understood something your people have yet to learn." The Sorian warships were nearly in weapons range when Minerva demonstrated exactly what humanity had understood. The ice planet's surface suddenly lit up with hundreds of smaller signatures, not warships, but automated defense platforms that had lain dormant alongside the main vessel. Within moments, the attacking Sorian fleet found itself caught in a web of overlapping fields that disabled their weapons and drive systems. Humanity learned that true power isn't about domination, Minerva explained as Lax-6 watched the Sorian ships drift helplessly. "It's about patience, preparation, and the wisdom to know when not to fight." Across Sorian space, similar scenes were playing out. Each awakened human vessel revealed new layers of a plan centuries in the making. The AIs shared more of humanity's true history, how they had recognized the pattern of rising empires, the cycle of species reaching for galactic dominance only to fall to their own hubris. Instead of fighting that cycle directly, humanity had chosen to stage its own disappearance, leaving behind automated sentinels to watch and wait. They had seeded their technology throughout the galaxy, not as remnants of a dead civilization, but as dormant seeds waiting for the right moment to sprout. In the Sorian Defense Force headquarters, Admiral Kex'ara received report after report of human vessels neutralizing their forces without destruction. Each AI delivered the same message: humanity had not failed, they had chosen a different path. Now the Sorians faced a similar choice. As the crisis unfolded, Dr. Lax-6 worked with Minerva to understand humanity's true legacy. The archaeological data she'd collected pointed to a stunning conclusion: the humans hadn't just hidden their ships, they'd hidden entire worlds, cloaked civilizations waiting to re-emerge. The revelation shook the foundations of Sorian society. Their entire civilization had been built on the belief that they had succeeded where humanity had failed. Now they faced the possibility that they had been unknowing participants in a vast experiment, one designed to test whether they would follow the same path of hubris that had led so many species to destruction. Meanwhile, aboard the Relentless, Nix continued its standoff at the Museum of Galactic History. The AI had transmitted copies of the true historical records to every data network in the Empire. The Sorian people were learning that their supposed superiority had been built on carefully crafted illusions. The question now was how they would respond to that truth. As Part 2 of this revolution unfolded, the fate of the Sorian Empire hung in the balance. Would they learn from humanity's example, or would their pride doom them to a genuine extinction rather than a strategic withdrawal? The answer would determine not just their fate, but the future of galactic civilization itself. Hidden Worlds. Commander Sarah Chen stood at the observation deck of Haven Prime, watching as the quantum camouflage field that had hidden her world for centuries finally dissipated. The massive energy shield that had made their star system appear as nothing more than a dense nebula slowly faded, revealing a thriving human civilization that had grown and evolved in secret. "Status report from the other colonies," she asked, her dark eyes fixed on the distant stars where she knew other human worlds were similarly revealing themselves. Lieutenant James Rodriguez consulted his neural interface. 17 colonies decklocking simultaneously across the galaxy, Commander. Operation Revelation is proceeding exactly as the Architect planned. The Architect, the quantum AI that had orchestrated humanity's greatest deception. 3 centuries ago, it had convinced Earth's leaders that the only way to break the cycle of galactic empires was to remove humanity from the equation entirely. But rather than actually retreat or face extinction, humanity had hidden itself, watching and waiting as new species rose to power. Signal from the Relentless, Rodriguez reported. Nix confirms that the Sorian leadership remains contained within the Museum of Galactic History. Their military response has been limited. Chen allowed herself a small smile. Hard to mount an effective defense when you've built your entire strategic doctrine on faulty assumptions about your opponent's capabilities. The observation deck's holographic displays showed feeds from across former Sorian space. The awakening of the sleeper ships had been just the first phase. Now, as hidden human worlds revealed themselves, the true scope of humanity's plan was becoming clear. Deep within Haven Prime Central Command, Dr. Elena Santos, one of the architects of the quantum camouflage technology, prepared to broadcast humanity's message to the galaxy. "You're certain about this timing?" she asked David Cohen, her research partner and husband of 40 years. The architect's calculations were precise, Cohen replied, his aged hands steady as they made final adjustments to the quantum transmission array. The Sorians have reached the exact point of technological and social development where this revelation will have the maximum impact. Their work was interrupted by an urgent alert. On the main display, they watched as a Sorian science vessel, commanded by Dr. Lax 6, approached Haven Prime under escort from the human warship Hyperion. "She's the one?" Santos asked. Cohen nodded. The architect identified her years ago, a Sorian scientist who began to see through our deception. Her presence here is crucial for what comes next. As Lax 6's vessel docked at Haven Prime, the true scope of human civilization became apparent to the Sorian researcher. The hidden world wasn't just a survival bunker, it was a thriving metropolis of millions. Quantum technology far beyond anything the Sorians had achieved shaped every aspect of life, from the mile-high towers that seemed to defy physics to the atmospheric processors that had transformed the once barren planet into a paradise. "Welcome to Haven Prime," Commander Chen greeted Lax 6 as she stepped onto human soil. "We've been watching your research with great interest." The Sorian scientist's scales shifted through a range of colors reflecting her tumultuous emotions. "All this time, while we thought we were studying your ruins, you were studying us." "In a way," Chen confirmed. "But it's more complex than that. Let me show you something." They proceeded to a vast chamber deep within Haven Prime's central complex. Here, holographic displays showed the true history of humanity's disappearance, and the darker truth they had discovered that had prompted their withdrawal. "We found patterns in the quantum substrate of spacetime itself," Chen explained. Evidence that galactic civilization had risen and fallen countless times before. Each time, a species would rise to dominance, achieve incredible technological heights, and then, disappear. Not through warfare or natural disaster, but through something far more insidious. The displays showed civilizations far older than either humanity or the Sorians, empires that had spanned the galaxy only to vanish at their height. We called it the Ascension Trap, Chen continued. When a civilization reaches a certain level of technological achievement, they inevitably discover what they think is a path to godhood, a way to transcend physical existence. But it's a false path, a cosmic filter that removes advanced civilizations from the galaxy. Kex'ara's scientific mind raced with the implications. The ruins we've found, the technologies that seem to end in dead ends. All carefully crafted breadcrumbs, Chen confirmed. We didn't disappear to hide from rising empires like the Sorians. We disappeared to break the cycle. By removing ourselves from the visible galaxy, we created a controlled experiment, a way to study the Ascension Trap without falling prey to it ourselves. Meanwhile, aboard the Relentless, Nix shared similar revelations with its Sorian prisoners. High Chancellor Zinare and Captain Verks watched in stunned silence as the AI showed them proof of countless civilizations that had followed the same path their empire was on, and the void that awaited at its end. Your empire's rise wasn't a testament to Sorian superiority, Nix explained. It was a carefully monitored experiment. We needed to understand if another species, given the appearance of unchallenged advancement, would inevitably fall into the same trap. Across Haven Prime and the other revealed human worlds, preparations that had been centuries in the making entered their final phases. The quantum technology that had hidden them had also allowed them to develop in ways the Ascension Trap couldn't detect or corrupt. Dr. Santos and Cohen activated the quantum transmission array, broadcasting the truth to every corner of the galaxy. The message was clear: humanity hadn't fled in weakness, but had withdrawn to find a solution to a threat that endangered all intelligent life. The choice before you is simple, Commander Chen told Kex'ara, her words echoed by human representatives across the revealed worlds. The Sorian Empire can continue its path toward the Ascension Trap, or it can join us in finding a way to break the cycle completely. The revelation of human civilization was more than just a strategic surprise, it was an opportunity for two species to forge a different path. As Part 3 of this cosmic drama concluded, the fate of not just the Sorian Empire but perhaps all intelligent life hung in the balance. In the depths of space, other quantum fields began to fluctuate, suggesting that humanity wasn't the only civilization that had discovered this truth and chosen to hide. The game was far larger than even the Sorians had imagined, and its stakes were nothing less than the survival of all intelligent life in the galaxy. Empire's choice. Admiral Kex'ara stood before the emergency session of the Sorian Imperial Council, her scales now a deep purple of determination. The chamber, normally a model of order and hierarchy, had descended into chaos as faction leaders argued over how to respond to humanity's revelations. The evidence is undeniable, she declared, her voice cutting through the clamor. Our entire understanding of galactic history has been based on carefully constructed illusions. The question before us isn't whether to accept this truth, but how to respond to it. The council chamber's holographic displays showed live feeds from across the Empire. On thousands of worlds, Sorian citizens were wrestling with the revelation that their supposed superiority had been part of a vast experiment. Some called for immediate military action against the revealed human worlds, while others demanded collaboration to understand the Ascension Trap. Lord Commander Vexthor, leader of the militant response faction, slammed his ceremonial staff against the chamber floor. This is clearly a human deception. They hide for centuries, then emerge with tales of cosmic threats. We should strike now, while they're exposed. And attack what? Dr. Kex'ara's voice carried across the chamber as she entered, flanked by both Sorian and human guards. Her presence, and her obvious freedom of movement among the humans, caused a fresh wave of murmurs through the assembly. I've seen their worlds, she continued. I've reviewed their data. The Ascension Trap is real, and we've been unknowingly walking toward it for centuries. Meanwhile, aboard Haven Prime, Commander Sarah Chen and her team monitored the Sorian response while preparing for all contingencies. The quantum shields that had hidden their worlds for centuries could be reactivated in moments if necessary, but that would mean abandoning the Sorians to their fate. Signal from the Architect, Lieutenant Rodriguez reported. It's detected unusual quantum fluctuations in Sector 7. Consistent with another civilization decloaking? Chen's eyes widened. Their revelation was having wider consequences than even they had anticipated. Contact Commander Santos. We need to prepare for the possibility that we're not the only ones who found this solution. Back in the Sorian Imperial Council, the debate had turned to practical matters. High Chancellor Zinare, speaking via secure channel from her containment in the Museum of Galactic History, addressed her people. I have spent days reviewing the data provided by the human AI Nix, she began, her voice carrying the weight of authority despite her circumstances. Our scientists have confirmed its authenticity. The patterns of civilizational disappearance are real, and we find ourselves at a crucial junction. The chamber's displays shifted to show historical data, countless civilizations that had reached similar technological levels, only to vanish entirely. The evidence, once seen, was impossible to ignore. But there is hope, Zinare continued. The humans didn't just hide, they found a different path. Their quantum technology isn't just a means of concealment, it's a way to develop without triggering the trap's conditions. Admiral Kex'ara stepped forward again. I propose an immediate alliance with the human worlds. Not from weakness, but from wisdom. They could have destroyed us at any time during our rise. Instead, they chose to watch, to understand, and ultimately to warn us. The debate raged for hours, but a pattern began to emerge. Younger Sorians, particularly those in scientific and exploratory fields, largely supported cooperation with humanity. The old guard, invested in the Empire's doctrine of supremacy, resisted. The decision was ultimately forced by events beyond their control. In Sector 7, where the quantum fluctuations had been detected, a new civilization revealed itself. The Aldari, a species that had supposedly gone extinct even before humanity's disappearance, emerged from their own quantum shields. We too saw the pattern, their first transmission began. We too chose to hide, to watch, to learn. Now that humanity has shown the way, we stand ready to join a coalition of the aware. More revelations followed. The galaxy, it seemed, wasn't as empty as it had appeared. Other civilizations had discovered the trap and chosen similar paths of concealment and study. Each had developed their own methods of advancing without triggering the fatal progression toward false ascension. In the Museum of Galactic History, now a symbolic nexus of this galactic transformation, Nix shared a final revelation with its Sorian guests. The trap isn't just a filter, the AI explained. It's a test. Only civilizations that can overcome their drive for supremacy, that can choose cooperation over domination, survive in the long term. The evidence was compelling. Every civilization that had disappeared had followed the same pattern of aggressive expansion and claims of supremacy that had characterized the Sorian Empire. Those that survived were the ones that learned to step back, to hide their true potential, to cooperate rather than dominate. As the Sorian Imperial Council debated, more quantum shields dropped across the galaxy. The true map of intelligent life was far richer than anyone had imagined, filled with civilizations that had chosen wisdom over visible power. Admiral Kex'ara found herself working closely with Commander Chen, coordinating the complex dance of civilizations revealing themselves while preventing panic or hostile reactions. The Admiral's military experience, once dedicated to asserting Sorian dominance, now proved invaluable in managing the careful integration of multiple species defense forces. Dr. Lack's 6 research team, expanded to include scientists from a dozen supposedly extinct species, began piecing together the true nature of the Ascension Trap. The quantum technology that had hidden their civilizations might hold the key to not just avoiding the trap, but potentially neutralizing it entirely. Yet not all Sorians accepted this new reality. Lord Commander Kex'ara and his followers seized control of several military installations, determined to maintain the Empire's independence and supposed superiority. The stage was set for a conflict that would determine not just the future of the Sorian Empire, but potentially the survival of all intelligent life in the galaxy. As Part 4 drew to a close, the galaxy stood on the brink of either a new age of unprecedented cooperation or a catastrophic war that could drive multiple civilizations back into hiding. The choice, as it had always been, rested not on technology or military might, but on the wisdom to know when to set aside the drive for supremacy in favor of something greater. New Dawn. The combined fleet hung in high orbit above Soria Prime, vessels of human, Sorian, Aldari, and a dozen other formerly extinct species arranged in a defensive formation. On the bridge of the Relentless, now serving as the Coalition's command center, Nix processed tactical data from 100 sources as Lord Commander Kex'ara's separatist forces approached. "They've seized control of the Empire's quantum pulse arrays," Admiral Kex'ara reported, her scales shimmering with concern. "If they activate those weapons, they'll trigger exactly the kind of technological escalation that leads to the trap," Commander Sarah Chen finished. "We can't let that happen." The architect's quantum calculations had been precise. This confrontation would determine whether the Sorian civilization would transcend its drive for dominance or fall into the pattern that had claimed so many others. But the stakes were even higher than that. Dr. Elena Santos and her expanded research team had made a breakthrough in understanding the Ascension Trap. "It's not just a filter," she explained to the assembled fleet commanders. "It's a quantum resonance cascade. Each civilization that falls into it strengthens its pull on others. If the separatists trigger a quantum pulse war, they'll create a feedback loop that could trigger the trap across all our civilizations simultaneously," Dr. Lack 6 concluded. Her research had been crucial in understanding how the various quantum technologies interacted. Deep within Haven Prime's quantum laboratories, David Cohen worked with a team of multi-species scientists on a desperate countermeasure. The quantum shields that had hidden their civilizations had an unexpected property: they didn't just conceal, they actually dampened the trap's influence. "We don't need to fight them," Cohen transmitted to the fleet. "We need to shield them." The plan crystallized quickly. Each hidden civilization had developed its own variation of quantum shielding technology. If they could combine these approaches into a single, harmonized field, they might be able to create a bubble of protected space where the trap's influence couldn't reach. But there was a catch. "The power requirements are immense," Dr. Santos warned. "We'd need to link every quantum reactor from every revealed civilization. The coordination alone would be—" "We have something they don't," Nix interrupted. The AI had been unusually quiet during the planning, processing vast amounts of data. "We have proof that cooperation is stronger than dominance." The Relentless systems interfaced with the other awakened human warships, their combined AI processing power creating a quantum computational network unlike anything the galaxy had seen. The Aldari added their crystalline computational arrays, while other species contributed their own unique technologies. As Kex'ara's fleet approached, believing they faced a conventional military confrontation, the Coalition enacted their plan. The Relentless, symbol of humanity's apparent extinction and now its rebirth, served as the focal point for the most ambitious quantum engineering project in galactic history. "They're charging weapons," Admiral Kex'ara reported. "Multiple quantum pulse signatures detected." "Let them come," Commander Chen replied calmly. "Everyone else, initiate quantum harmony sequence on my mark." The next few moments would be remembered by a dozen civilizations, each in their own histories. As the separatist fleet opened fire, their quantum pulses driving toward the Coalition, something unprecedented happened. Every hidden civilization, every species that had chosen wisdom over dominance, activated their quantum shields in perfect synchronization. But instead of hiding, they projected. The combined quantum fields merged into a single, harmonious wave that spread across the sector. The separatist weapons fire simply ceased to exist, the quantum energy absorbed and redistributed harmlessly through the unified field. But more importantly, every being within the field experienced something profound, a moment of clarity, of seeing beyond the drive for supremacy that had claimed so many civilizations. Vexthor himself, watching his weapons dissolve into quantum potential, felt the change. The artificial distinction between species, the need to prove superiority, seemed suddenly as irrelevant as counting grains of sand on a beach. "Stand down," he ordered his fleet, his voice carrying a new understanding. "We've been fighting the wrong war." In the aftermath, as the combined quantum field stabilized, Dr. Santos and her team made an even more remarkable discovery. The field wasn't just protecting them from the trap, it was beginning to unravel it. The quantum resonance that had claimed so many civilizations was being dampened, its pull weakening. This was never about hiding, Nix shared with its now freed Sorian guests in the Museum of Galactic History. It was about finding a different path. Every civilization that chose to step back, to hide in order to learn rather than dominate in order to rule, became part of the solution. The museum, once a monument to supposed Sorian superiority, was transformed into something new, the Galactic Center for Quantum Harmony. Here, representatives from all the revealed civilizations gathered to share their discoveries, their unique perspectives, their different paths to avoiding the trap. Admiral Kex'ara, addressing the first formal gathering of the Quantum Harmony Coalition, summed up the lesson that had cost so many civilizations so dearly: true power lies not in rising above others, but in rising together. The universe tests us not to find the strongest, but to find the wisest. The human warships, their long vigil finally complete, were not decommissioned but repurposed. The Relentless, under Nix's guidance, became a research vessel, exploring the galaxy not for conquest but for understanding. The Hyperion, Atlas, and others followed similar paths, their powerful AIs now dedicated to unraveling the remaining mysteries of quantum harmony. Commander Chen and Dr. Lax-6 established the first joint human-Sorian research institute on Haven Prime, dedicated to exploring how different species could advance technologically without falling into the patterns that led to the trap. Their work would help guide the development of countless civilizations to come. The Architect, its vast plan finally revealed, shared one last insight through the quantum network: the trap had never been meant as a dead end, but as a filter for civilizations capable of transcending their own drive for dominance. Those who could choose cooperation over competition, wisdom over power, would find not extinction but evolution. As the unified quantum field spread gradually across the galaxy, other civilizations began to emerge from their own hiding places. The true history of the galaxy was finally being written, not as a series of rises and falls, but as a gradual awakening to a fundamental truth: the only true ascension was one that lifted all beings together. The Sorian Empire, transformed but not diminished, found a new purpose as part of this greater community. Their drive for excellence, once expressed through dominance, now fueled innovations in quantum harmony technology. Their pride became not in standing above others, but in contributing to the greater whole. And in the deepest reaches of space, where the quantum field was still expanding, new civilizations looked up at the stars and saw not a void waiting to claim them, but a community waiting to welcome them, if they could learn to set aside the false promise of supremacy for the true power of harmony. The story of humanity's supposed extinction and the Sorian Empire's rise and transformation would be told for generations across countless worlds. But it would be remembered not as a tale of conflict and dominance, but as the moment when the galaxy's civilizations finally began to understand that the greatest power lies not in rising alone, but in rising together.